Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our free webinar today. Today, we're going to be discussing Safety and Health Program Assessment Worksheets, which are part of your written report that you get through Pennsylvania OSHA Consultation, or if you're out of state watching this, through your respective state consultation offices. So a couple housekeeping items we'd like to address before we get started. This is a PowerPoint presentation. However, during this PowerPoint presentation, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions, and our chat function is open to submit those questions. And myself and our staff, we're going to be answering those questions throughout this webinar. So if it's a technical question and we can't get you an answer right away, we promise that we'll have an answer with you within the next several days, and we'll be able to post that on our website, which you can see in the bottom right corner of your screen. So what's on our agenda today? It's pretty exciting. So we're going to talk about what is OSHA Consultation's Safety and Health Program Assessment Form, or what OSHA refers to as Form 33. And because I've been with OSHA Consultation for a number of years, if I refer to Form 33, I am specifically referring to OSHA's Safety and Health Program Assessment Form. So they are synonymous. But we're going to answer why it's important. We're also going to address if you score higher on that form, if your organization is performing better, will that in turn result in lower injuries and illnesses occurring in your facility? Turns out the answer is yes, from a statistical perspective. It gets a bit mathy. We're not going to get into the weeds on the math, but the answer is yes. We're going to share with you those attributes on the form that you should focus on first things first, and how you can apply those attributes specifically to the workplace through your safety committee to create new safety and health habits in your workplace that can, in fact, reduce your operational risk. But don't wait for us. If you are engaged with Pennsylvania OSHA Consultation, or if you're an employer that's outside Pennsylvania watching this webinar, we strongly encourage you to contact us here in Pennsylvania or your in-state respective consultation program and submit a request for assistance, because consultants will use this form to help you gauge and measure the effectiveness of your occupational health and safety management system, not just your programs, but those management systems as well. And that form will come with your written report. And we encourage you to use that form then in between our visits. We can only be on site with you, as you well know, once per year. However, in between, you have a copy of this form, and this is something that your safety committee can do in between each month to ensure that your occupational health and safety management systems are functioning well. So let's talk a little bit about the background. What's important here is, by definition, small businesses, and I think we can all agree on this, have fewer internal resources, right? So those resources could be money that's available for interventions, or time available for compliance training, or the number of people that may be able to participate actively in the safety and health program. So we understand that. Small businesses are disadvantaged from that perspective, that they have fewer internal resources than compared to large organizations, big companies, ExxonMobil, Alcoa, companies like that. But what's really important to understand here is small businesses, in fact, experience a disproportionate number of serious injuries and illnesses and fatalities. In unpublished data that's available through the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 2017, 68.8% of all occupational fatalities in the United States happen in workplaces that had 99 or fewer employees. So you can see on the pie chart to the right how small businesses have 69% of all fatalities in 2017 compared to large companies. Remember, these small businesses are disadvantaged because they have fewer internal resources. So how do we address this issue that you and your company is facing? Well, through an occupational health and safety management system. There's a lot of studies out there, a lot of research on occupational health and safety management systems in large companies like Alcoa or PPG, but little research on small businesses and how they implement the same occupational health and safety management systems. But we did a little research here at IUP, and we have some answers for you that we're going to share today. So what is our purpose in OSHA Consultation, right? There are two primary purposes that we're focused mostly on. Those two services that we provide, whether it's on or off site, is of course free OSHA safety and health compliance assistance, and promoting, evaluating, and improving both your formal and informal safety and health management systems during those visits. And OSHA consultants, whether they're in Pennsylvania or the other states, do this primarily through the Safety and Health Program Assessment Form, or Form 33. So what is this worksheet, right? So it's a tool that's used by OSHA Consultation to assess employers, just like you, whether you're in construction or manufacturing, healthcare, doesn't matter your industry. This is how safety gets done. So it's a tool to use to assess employer safety and health, what OSHA calls programs, or what we refer to as your management systems. So it evaluates the status of your existing safety and health programs. It tries to identify deficiencies and inadequacies as well as inadequacies and provide concrete recommendations that you could use as a small business for effective corrective actions and to continually improve your safety and health performance. You may recognize this form. It's Appendix D in your written report, and you may recognize that form by the image that's on the left there. So this form contains 7 components, and it has 58 individual attributes that consultants are using to evaluate your safety and health programs. And this tool is used nationwide. This isn't a Pennsylvania-specific assessment form. All OSHA consultation offices are using a form like this. Those 7 components are hazard anticipation and detection, hazard prevention and control, planning and evaluation, administration and supervision, safety and health training, management leadership, and employee participation. On the form, you'll get an overall total assessment score. There will be an aspect score of each of the 7 components, as well as the individual attribute score for each of those 58 attributes. And the scoring system that OSHA uses and all the state consultation offices use is 0, 1, 2, or 3, which means if you're scored a 0, that means there's no presence of any safety and health procedures, policies, or processes in place, or there's very little evidence of them being in place. A score of 1 is there's some evidence of procedures, policies for safety and health that exist, but need significant improvement. A score of 2 is most of everything that's expected to be there regarding safety and health procedures and policies is present, but through the consultant's guidance, there's some minor improvements that can be made. Lastly is a score of 3, where the consultant finds that all the policies and procedures that are in place are very effective in reducing, identifying hazards, evaluating those hazards, and controlling those hazards, and no additional changes or improvements are needed at this time. So the form should look familiar to you if you've had OSHA consultation on site in the past, and the written report shows up in the email. So this is Appendix D. This is the Safety and Health Assessment Worksheet. And in your written report, you get a worksheet with all 58 aspects that are addressed. It may be a limited service visit, and we'll talk about this a little more later in the webinar, but it may be a limited service visit where not all 58 attributes are answered, but instead only 8 to 12 attributes are addressed. And the individual scores, as well as the component score, will be given, as well as a total overall average score. So let's get to an OHSMS, or an Occupational Health Safety Management System. Do you have one? Which is a good question to ask to get started. So the ANSI standard on Occupational Health and Safety Management Systems, which is Z10, last revision is 2019, defines an OHSMS as a set of interrelated elements that establish and or support occupational health and safety policy and objectives, the mechanisms to achieve those objectives in order to continually improve occupational safety and health. Some of this may be reminiscent of Deming and his quality rules that he uses to improve internal quality performance of an organization as far as product goes. Across the literature that's been done and research that's been done to date, primarily on large organizations, collectively, they assert that an occupational health and safety management system is an interrelated framework of planned processes, procedural requirements in a structured management system. And if you're an ISO 9001 organization, or you're familiar with ISO 9001, some of this should ring familiar to you. Designed or intended to achieve identified occupational safety and health goals and objectives, legal obligations, both internal and external, expectations of all internal and external stakeholders, workers in the community, perhaps corporate, could be an external stakeholder or an internal stakeholder, or perhaps the shareholders, and attain a strategic occupational safety and health related outcomes. In other words, we're not injuring our workers. That's a lot, and I understand that. So maybe it's easier if we just define what an occupational health and safety management system isn't. So this is not an occupational health and safety management system, and perhaps you can relate. It's not a bunch of written procedures sitting on a shelf or on your desk that aren't connected or joined in any way, that stand alone. That is not an occupational health and safety management system. And as I said, it's not a bunch of written plans that are sitting on a shelf either. It's not your bloodborne pathogens, your lockout, tagout, your HAZCOM, your exposure control plan. It's not just these individual written programs. These are a component of an occupational health and safety management system, but they're not the equivalent of an occupational health and safety management system. So together with those written plans, your lockout, tagout, your HAZCOM programs, think of an occupational health and safety management system as how safety gets done at your facility every day. On Form 33, on that program assessment form, there are 58 criteria to evaluate the current state of how safety and health is getting done in your organization. And it's categorized into 3 areas: operational, managerial, and cultural. Those aspects all exist in your workplace today. So the big takeaway here on this aspect is each of OSHA's standards, lockout, tagout standards, confined space entry standards, fall protection standards, cranes, derricks, HAZCOM, they all contain aspects of operational, managerial, and cultural elements. But your occupational health and safety management system is much, much broader than just those individually mandated programs or the sum of those parts combined. And let's get into it. We'll do a little bit of a deep dive here. So the 3 components of an occupational health and safety management system are operational. And of the 7 components of Form 33, 2 of those 7 and their 19 attributes measure the operational aspects of your occupational health and safety management system. And it's those first 2 sections: hazard anticipation and detection, hazard prevention and control. The operational component is concerned primarily with proactively the organization identifying, evaluating, preventing, and controlling hazards in its workplace. There's a component as well to ensure that the feedback to workers who are reporting hazards in their workplace is effective and it continually improves. On the managerial side, 3 of the 7 subcomponents on the Safety and Health Program Assessment Form and 20 of those attributes measure the organization, your organization's capability to establish, facilitate, and maintain those operational attributes that we just discussed. Those 3 subcomponents are planning and evaluation, administration and supervision, safety and health training. Now, it's important to note, regardless of your establishment size, whether you have 10 workers on site or you have 250 workers on site, the managerial components concerned with traditional managerial functions, which include how you coordinate occupational safety and health activities and interventions, how you plan those activities and interventions, how you control, how you staff, develop, how you communicate your occupational health and safety policy and interventions, how you organize your activities, allocate the resources to get them done, and most importantly, motivate your workers to be engaged and participate in that. So the managerial component is in fact the gateway to the cultural component. So I'd like you to take a second and look at the image on the right side of your screen. And just consider for a moment where you believe your organization falls on that scale. Is your organization primarily reactive, that you wait until an injury occurs before you identify the latent management system weakness that led to that incident? Or are you more towards the right side of that scale and proactive, doing routine inspections of the workplace, interviewing workers and getting their participation in the occupational health and safety management system, engaging them in training to try and build your organization to be resilient, to ensure that safety becomes the way we do our work. And it's ingrained in everything we do, and we even take it home. And we practice what we preach, both at work and at home. And what we're talking about are the cultural components. And there are two components on Form 33 which address this. They are employee participation and management leadership. And these two aspects are complementary of each other. So this cultural component addresses and measures those attributes that address organizational values, that reveal the values of what's most important to the organization. You can recognize an effective safety and health cultural component in your organization when everybody truly believes that they have a right to a safe and healthy workplace. That all of us, whether we're in the corner office and top management, we're the newest employee on the production line, that we have some responsibility and accountability for our own safety and health, but we also have a duty to protect those around us. It's also important to recognize that management leadership is critical to initiate change to improving that health and safety culture. So health and safety culture isn't a standalone aspect. It's part of the overall organizational culture. And worker participation is very critical to ensure that that culture is nurtured and improved. And there are non-safety cues that we can look at as OSHA consultation when we're on site to find what is the state and health of the existing workplace culture. If employees are able to participate in profit sharing, if there is childcare services provided to workers, there's wellness programs made available to employees. Those are all aspects of a well-rounded, effective deep culture where that duty to protect each other is very evident. So again, think about an occupational health and safety management system when it's in action. It's how safety and health gets done, right? So it's pre-job safety briefings, it's the safety committee meeting, it's job inspections, site inspections, workplace inspection, writing job safety analyses. It's evaluating the workplace to identify, evaluate, and control hazards. It's top leadership. Explain to us their philosophy on safety. And it's how the work gets executed in the workplace every day to ensure that everybody goes home safe at the end of the day. So why should we have an occupational health and safety management system in place? It's good for business. It's as simple as that. Companies that have a good culture tend to have high-performing safety and health programs in place. And we can look to Alcoa and former Treasury Secretary Paul O'Neill as a lesson to that. Occupational health and safety management systems support the business. In addition to the cost savings from injuries and illnesses that are prevented that can go back to the bottom line, that's money that can be reinvested in the business, we improve our resilience. We have an enhanced competitive edge for our competition in the marketplace. We incur fewer accidents. Our reputation as a company improved. When we go out to hire, employees understand that this is a safe place to work. They want to come and work here. We maintain both internal and external legal compliance on a regular basis. And overall, our costs are reduced. So how do we in OSHA consultation, how do we use this form? We use it to address and measure, as we've been discussing, your occupational health and safety management system. But we also use it to identify opportunities for companies who perform at a world-class level. Those companies who strive to become SHARP, our Safety Health Achievement Recognition Program participants. So SHARP companies across the United States, on this form, Form 33, they have all 58 aspects of that form evaluated at least once every 3 years. And if they're new into the program, it's done annually until those processes, those interventions, and that culture improves where those activities that they're doing to prevent injury and illnesses are sustainable. So SHARP companies across the United States must maintain a total recordable case rate or days away restricted or transfer rate below national averages for their respective North American industry code. They must receive a score of at least 2 on all 58 attributes. And participants, whether they're SHARP or pre-SHARP, working towards SHARP, anything less than a 3 score on that form, those companies who are striving to become SHARP are assigned an action plan to improve those existing procedures and policies and move them from a 1 to a 2 or a 2 to a 3. The benefits of SHARP are companies that are designated SHARP are removed from OSHA's program inspection list. that's a good incentive to strive to SHARP. And the SHARP benefits, again, materialize through fewer costs, fewer injury and illnesses, increased reputation in our marketplace or in our own communities. And statistically, SHARP companies with an effective occupational health and safety management system, not only do they have lower injury and illness rates compared to their competitors, when we're out doing OSHA consultation work on site, those companies also have fewer serious hazards and non-compliances with the OSHA standards as well. So how is this form used? So across the United States, 9 out of 10 OSHA consultation visits that we conduct, both in Pennsylvania and the other states and federal territories, are deemed limited service rather than full service. Only during a full service visit would a consultant evaluate all 58 attributes on the Safety and Health Program Assessment Worksheet. During the 90% of those visits, we're evaluating about 8 to 12 relevant attributes. Now, it's important to understand that OSHA provides little guidance, no guidance really, to the consultation projects on which specific attributes to evaluate during our limited service visit, where we're not evaluating all aspects of the occupational health and safety management system, other than the word relevant. So in our visit, here you can see Sean McGinnis from our own office evaluating a machine guard. So part of that may be how the company performs management of change, or how they conduct their workplace inspections to ensure that that machine guard's in place all the time. During full service visits, whether you're SHARP or not, all 58 attributes on that assessment form are evaluated. And to be clear, Pennsylvania OSHA consultation and all 49 OSHA consultation projects across the states and the federal territories, we strongly encourage you, every employer, to request a full program evaluation. Help us evaluate how safety and health gets done in our organization. But stats are what the stats are. 90% of those visits are limited service. So using some statistical analysis at IUP, we were able to identify a dozen of those attributes out of the 58 from a statistical measurement perspective that are significant in impacting safety outcomes. We're talking about TRC and DART rates here, lower injury and illness, OSHA reportable injury and illness rates. So your consultant, whether you're in Pennsylvania or any of the other states, can better assist you, can better assist employers who are getting a limited service visit where only 8 to 12 of those attributes are being evaluated. We can be a little more strategic here from a statistical perspective and use this form to ensure that resources, your limited resources, that being a small business, you have limited resources we discussed in the beginning, are effectively applied and targeted to have the most impact possible in reducing operational risk and ultimately achieving lower injury and illness rates. So the literature is clear, and you could see through this peer-reviewed literature that an occupational health and safety management system produces superior safety outcomes as measured by an OSHA recordable rate, whether it's a TRC rate or your DART rate, your lost workday rate, in comparison to companies who operate standalone regular OSHA compliance programs like lockout, tagout, or HAZCOM, bloodborne pathogens, fall protection. And these occupational health and safety management systems work, and they work really, really well. So the driver here, throughout the literature and all the research that has been done, that management commitment, the employer, remember, the employer has a duty under the 1970 OSHA Act to provide a safe and healthy workplace. That management commitment is critical for a successful outcome to improve occupational safety and health performance. And it cannot be overstated. It's got to be strong. It has to be demonstrable commitment of management by being visible. That means being on the production floor, talking with workers about safety, not about schedule, not about delivery, not about quality issues, but safety and health, and how those workers feel about safety and health in their workplace today. It's actively participating in those occupational safety and health activities, being present for every safety committee meeting, being part of the occupational safety and health assessments and review meetings, and procedure and program, annual program reviews. Serious and visible top management participation is shown to reduce accident rates for establishments regardless of size, whether you're Alcoa or your ABC Tool and Die in Meadville, Pennsylvania. Getting top management involved and being visible can be an effective method to reduce injury and illness rates. But management leadership alone can't do it. What we found in our research is all 7 components of the Occupational Safety and Health Assessment form that OSHA provides us, Form 33, all 7 elements have to be present and have to be functioning at a high level in order to maximize the opportunity to prevent injury and illnesses. What we found in our analyses is all 7 components are interrelated. And it's not just one key like management, visible management leadership to unlock safety and health success. It's identifying, evaluating, controlling hazards, having an effective training program in place, having workers involved in the process and participating in the safety committee, seeking Pennsylvania state certification for your safety committee. All these aspects come together in order to reduce injury and illnesses on site. So here's where we get a little bit of math. So we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but just so you understand what IUP's research was. We took the Safety and Health Program Assessment Worksheet data, the total recordable and DART rate. We collected this nationally across 45 states and federal territories. The data covers all available North American industrial codes, construction, manufacturing, healthcare, everything was included for 2015, 16, and 2017. Any identifiers regarding those businesses who had data in the system was purged from the data set, and all the data was aggregated to the 50 state level. So no individual identifying information about any businesses was included. So the sample population, it's important to understand, the average number of workers in this sample population that we used for this study was 74. I'm sure many businesses that are participating in this webinar today are probably around this size. Ownership across all the United States was 98% private sector, less than 2% local or state government for states who have public sector worker protections in place. The average total recordable case rate for this population was 3.1, and that aligns with the BLS in 2019 pre-COVID. The national average total recordable case rate was also 3.1. The average DART rate was 1.8, which also aligns with the national average with the same data set from the BLS. The national average of days away restricted and transfer cases was 1.7. So we eliminated the risk of data skewedness by having companies who participate in the OSHA consultation process across the United States. Now, it does get a little mathy. And this is just an overview of the type of testing that we did in the Department of Safety Sciences to measure the effectiveness of the Safety and Health Program Assessment Worksheet. I'm not going to get into all this detail. We're just going to talk about some of the findings that we had as a result. This is pretty cool. So you're thinking, okay, how does this help me, right? Math's great, but what does it all mean? And let's remember that in this analysis, these 1,741 companies were just like yours, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in agriculture, manufacturing, construction, doesn't matter. The lessons we're about to talk about can apply to any industry of any size, doing any type of work. So that includes you listening to this webinar right now. When we're talking about correlation coefficients, companies who scored well on the Safety and Health Program Assessment Worksheet, there was a strong correlation amongst the scores in administration and supervision and management leadership to lower days away restricted or transfer rates. So if you're having a visit and you're only having, and it's limited service, and only 8 to 12 of those 58 attributes are going to be evaluated during that visit, it's probably a good idea for the consultant to spend a good deal of time evaluating those individual attributes within administration and supervision and the management leadership components of Form 33. Those are key injury prevention indicators that we can use because DART is a measure of severity of injuries, right? Days away, restricted, or transferred. So it's a measure of severity. It's an index of severity. So if we can have help our employers, our clients that are participating in the OSHA consultation process score better on the administration supervision side, In the management leadership side, we can, statistically speaking, reduce DART rates. So there's 58 items on that worksheet. Is there something that we should focus on first? And the answer is yes, we should. So the results of this study that we did here in the Department of Safety Sciences and PA/OSHA Consultation, they can be used to generate a streamlined and robust survey tool of about 12 or fewer individual attributes on the form that we can use during limited visits. So these results, now we're talking statistics, predict as much as 7.7% of the variability in reported TRC and DART rates of that sample population. And you're thinking, okay, that 7.7, that's not a lot. But what we're talking about here is human performance versus machines. If we're stamping out parts, if we're stamping out the frames of a computer desktop unit, the tolerances of that are going to be very tight because it stamps the same way each and every time that machine strikes. But we're talking about humans and human behavior and organizational behavior, and that's much more difficult to measure than the dimensions and width and depth of a personal computer case. So 7.7% of variability is actually pretty high when it comes to human performance. And what we found are certain attributes appeared routinely. We did 20 models of OSHA's Form 33 data. And amongst all 20 results of those models, there were certain attributes that continued to pop out. Now, which 12 should we be focused on first? Statistically significant to measure and monitor in order to achieve lower total recordable and DART rates. And this is a big takeaway of this presentation. You want to make your safety committee most effective. You want to make your limited resources go as far and be as effective as possible. We want you to focus on these 12 attributes on the Safety and Health Program Assessment Worksheet. Under the hazard anticipation protection, it's an effective hazard reporting system exists, which means workers have a way of reporting injury and illnesses and hazards within the organization without fear of reprisal. Both accidents and incidents are investigated for root cause. And the difference between the two is incidents refer primarily to product damage, facility damage, equipment damage, environmental impacts, near hits and near misses. We should be addressing all those aspects of our performance and doing a deep dive root cause investigation into all of them, whether somebody got hurt or not, or almost got hurt or not, or something in our facility got damaged. We should be doing a root cause analysis on that. Under hazard prevention and control, housekeeping is properly maintained and effective preventative maintenance is performed. Planning and evaluation, our injury and illness data is analyzed. And this could be a good task for your site safety committee. Take your injury and illness data from the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and trend it. Are there certain body parts that are getting injured more often than others? Is it a particular task or activity? Is it a particular department? Is it the maintenance department that's incurring more injuries than operations, or vice versa? Administration and supervision. An accountability system is in place for each assigned safety and health task and responsibility assigned. So top management is holding not just themselves accountable, but those who report to them as well for fulfilling the annual health and safety activities that are assigned to them as part of their jobs. Safety and health training. What's really key here is these two attributes rose to the top, that supervisors receive appropriate safety and health training. And they also, in addition to that, receive training that covers the supervisory aspects of their job. And I'll give you an example. When I worked for Homer City Generation as the site safety manager for that coal-fired power plant, our plant manager and our staff manager participated and sat through the same training that the maintenance mechanics and the operators in the water department workers sat through. Lockout, tagout, fall protection, hazard communication, arsenic, lead, hexavalent chrome. They attended the same training that everybody else did. They were just as aware of our internal safety and health processes and programs as the workers who were using them on a daily basis. So it's critical that supervisors and top management receive training that's safety and health related just as much as the workers. And they also receive training that addresses how they do their jobs in respect to safety and health. Lastly is management leadership. That top management establishes a clear written policy and a priority for safety and health in the workplace. And those managers delegate the authority that is necessary to personnel, whether they're middle management, their frontline supervision, their frontline workers, to all personnel to carry out their assigned safety and health responsibilities effectively. Without authority, you can't expect somebody to be responsible for any aspect on site. So what first things are first? Here's a big takeaway. These 5 attributes from Form 33, the Safety and Health Program Assessment Form, appeared throughout all the 20 models that we did. These are attributes 1, 10, 15, 20, and 28. These 5 attributes alone were able to predict as much as 6.9% of the variability in the reported total reportable case rates. Again, we're not talking about measuring a stamping or production line. We're talking about how and why and when workers make the decisions that they do. So we strongly advise you who's attending this webinar, focus your attention first and foremost here on these 5 attributes, which is ensuring that you have a third-party comprehensive baseline hazard survey conducted at least every 5 years, that all of your incidents, this is not just your injury and illnesses, but your near hits, your product, equipment, facility, environmental impact, near misses, all those incidents are investigated for root cause. That housekeeping is properly maintained. Your exits are not blocked. Your fire extinguishers are unobstructed. Your aisleways, your dedicated and designated aisleways are clear of any trip and fall hazard. That your injury and illness data is effectively analyzed and trended as we discussed. And lastly, there's an accountability mechanism in place for each assigned safety and health responsibility. Think of this from Deming's perspective. Attribute 20, analyzing your data, is planning. The plan, do, check, act. Do portion is having a baseline hazard survey performed and ensuring your housekeeping is properly maintained. Doing audits and inspections and checking. Your incidents are investigated and your root causes are identified and effective corrective actions are put into place, as well as analyzing your data. And lastly is acting and improving, continually improving that system and ensuring that that accountability mechanism is included for each aspect, each assignment of safety and health responsibility. So to bring this full circle, what can we do with this data? So we can apply these 5 key attributes. Here's what OSHA says about these 5 key attributes. Regarding the comprehensive baseline hazard survey every 5 years, it should be documented. It should be done by qualified person, not just OSHA consultants, perhaps private consultants or your worker compensation loss control specialist. The word comprehensive means all major operations, including high-risk operations, and all shifts are included in that assessment. Because change occurs every day of every week of every year, particularly in small organizations who juggle a lot of different responsibilities. That baseline hazard survey, anytime it's older than 5 years, should be updated and should not be accepted. And of course, that baseline survey is not effective unless the identified hazards that are generated through that evaluation are corrected or scheduled to be corrected to improve safety and health. On the near hit and misses, all incidents, product damage, facility damage, and environmental impacts. So those are close calls events, and we want to make sure that nobody got hurt in this case. But if it happens again, if we don't correct this, we need to prevent recurrence. And near misses and near hits are, in fact, numerically predictive of future serious injury and illnesses. So we want to make sure that there's a no-fault process in place where workers can report hazards in their workplace or near misses that occurred, or product or facility or equipment got damaged without reprisal. This is an open forum, and we want to be able to improve our safety and health performance. We need to drive down to the root cause or causes of what caused that incident. And we want to make sure that there's a means of including employees in that process, interviewing them, taking their recommendations for that corrective action as well, because they're the ones that are at the sharp end of the blade here that are out there facing the hazards every day. And again, an incident investigation isn't effective unless all those corrective actions have been put in place. 15 is housekeeping. Overall, it's a function of safety and health because the organizational factors that determine good housekeeping are in fact the same factors that determine good safety and health performance. So again, making sure emergency exits are clear, exit routes are clear, fire extinguishers are not obstructed, aisleways are kept free of tripping hazards. There's no incompatible chemicals stored together. flammable combustibles are stored correctly, clean restrooms, work areas, lunchroom, break rooms, and trash and materials and old pallets get picked up and disposed of. Workplace injury and illness data is analyzed. Workplace injury and illness data should be analyzed to identify injury and illness types, to detect injury trends and spatial patterns, to determine the proportional distributions amongst operations and personnel. So essentially what OSHA is saying here is we can potentially detect future risk of injury and illnesses if we know the body parts, the work that was being done, the department where most injuries are happening, and we can focus our limited resources in those aspects. Lastly, is an accountability mechanism included with each assignment in safety and health responsibility. So monitoring by top management is critical to make sure that workers who are assigned safety and health responsibilities, frontline, supervision, middle management, and top management themselves complete those responsibilities, have the authority to do what is being asked of them at the beginning of the year. There's a clear and consistent understanding of how that work is going to get done and what performance looks like and what success looks like. And you can measure that through a lot of documentation. Safety committee meetings, top management presentations, having conferences. So there's a lot of ways you can measure whether the workers that have responsibility for certain aspects of safety and health are in fact performing in the way that's expected. So let's apply some of these outcomes and taking Form 33 and making sure that you, in the time period between when we're on site, because we can only be on site once per year, we'd like you to take this form that comes with your written report and apply it. And to do that, you're going to be creating some new habits as well. So there's 58 attributes on the form. Let's split them up into small, manageable groups. Let's say that your safety committee decides they're going to evaluate 5 attributes every month over the course of 12 months. You'd finish the form in 1 year. You'd go through the entire form in 1 year. And you could do that year in, year out going forward. We want to make sure that you answer the questions, all 58 attributes, honestly, and determine if there's been measurable improvement since the last time the consultant was on site or the last time you measured this. So let's take an example. Safety committee can capture some issues, make sure that it's documented as an action item, and it gets completed. So if the safety committee identifies a deficiency, that gets corrected. So safety data sheets is attribute number 7. Safety data sheets are used to reveal potential hazards associated with chemical products that exist in the workplace. So what can you do? Safety committee can walk through the facility, take your inventory of hazardous chemicals, try to identify any new chemicals that may be present. If there aren't, and the safety data sheets that are on file are current, score yourself a 3. Your process worked. You find a new chemical, track down the safety data sheet. That's a deficiency. You want to first and foremost make sure workers who are using that chemical are protected and trained on this newly identified chemical that's in your workplace. You want to next root cause how that new chemical came to the workplace with no notification and no safety data sheet. You need to close that gap in your occupational health and safety management system. So score yourself a 2. Come back and again, at a later time again, to determine if that corrective or preventive action is sustaining. So evaluate maybe a few months down the road, walk through the workplace again, and ensure that no new chemicals come in and whatever corrective action you put in place is effective and working. We'll take a look at another example, number 16. The organization is properly prepared for emergency situation. So what the safety committee can do is review the emergency response plan and fire prevention plan. We can do a brainstorming exercise here of possible emergency scenarios. Have we covered all of them? Fires, chemical spills, medical emergencies, whether they're work-related or not, confined space rescue, falls, fall rescue, suspension trauma, electrocution, all those emergencies. Have we covered them all in our emergency response plan and our fire prevention plan? If we haven't, we can score ourselves a 2, and we identify corrective action to improve those plans. Ensure that the emergency action plan or the fire prevention plan gets updated and workers get trained in the emergency scenario that your safety committee brainstormed. If your emergency response plan and fire prevention plan cover all aspects, all potential emergencies, and great, score yourself a 3. Aspect number 22, a safety and health goal and supporting objectives exist. So are there documented? Is there a written set of goals that the safety committee and top management and all the persons in the organization are working towards? If there are, and it gets updated on an annual basis, great, score yourself a 3. If not, Set an attainable goal. Maybe one of your goals is we're going to use the OSHA Consultation Safety and Health Program Assessment Worksheet and do 5 of these every meeting once a month. And over 12 months, we're going to go through the form. That's a good goal. Another goal might be ensuring 100% of employees that are scheduled to be trained to lockout tagout, that are authorized users and affected employees, get that training in a year. Most important is your goals are SMART. They're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're time-based. And your safety committee and your top management is tracking progress on those goals. So by the end of the year, we know what success looks like. If you find, for example, that 100% of your workers in lockout tagout haven't gotten the training in the past year, root cause exactly why, close that gap in your occupational health and safety management system, specifically your training processes, and score yourselves a 2. Evaluate it later, make sure your corrective and preventive action is sustaining. We want to make sure that safety and health tasks are each specifically assigned to a person or position for performance. So, does the safety committee know, for example, who inspects your emergency eye wash stations? Who disinfects areas of your facility that are subject to bloodborne pathogens? Who's inspecting your portable ladders, your extension ladders and folding ladders? Who performs the competent person inspections of your personal fall arrest systems? If persons are fully accountable in the organization, they have the responsibility and the authority and are accountable, great, that's excellent, score yourself a 3. Safety committee identifies those tasks, which are in our written plans, but nobody specifically being held accountable to doing those actions, will score yourself a 2. Close the gap in the occupational health and safety management system, root cause why that is, and fix it. And then come back later to make sure that corrective action is sustained. Another one, top management values employee involvement and participation in safety and health issues. So the existence of the safety committee itself is self-evident that top management values employee involvement. They provide this vehicle for employees to have an active participation in safety and health processes in their workplace. We strongly encourage you to take that one step further and pursue state certification of that safety committee through the Pennsylvania Bureau of Worker Compensation. So how does a committee function? How are decisions about safety and health actually made? So do the workers who are wearing and using the personal fall arrest system actually have a say in which brand of harness and lanyard that are purchased? Do 100% of those workers who attend training every year, are there workers who participate in the root cause investigations that are conducted? If workers truly are involved in all aspects of safety and health, great, that's a 3, score yourself a 3. But if the safety committee identifies aspects of safety and health where employee participation is lacking, for example, only supervisors get to conduct injury and illness investigations rather than having the injured employee and affected employees, maybe workers from other shifts who do that same task, have a say in that investigation process, and score yourself a 2. Identify why that is, root cause why, close that gap in the occupational health and safety management system, and then check later to make sure that that's a sustaining corrective or preventive action. So what have we covered today? We covered what is OSHA Consultation Safety and Health Program Assessment Form, why it's important. Essentially, it measures how safety and health gets done in our organization, in our workplaces. Can improving our scores on that form actually reduce the number of injuries and illnesses that are occurring? The answer is yes. And as you saw, it got a little mathy, but essentially the answer is yes. Statistically, are there first things first on the Safety and Health Program Assessment Form? And there are. It's attributes 1, 10, 15, 20, and 28. And because you're a small business and because you have limited resources, we strongly encourage you to focus your attention on first things first and make sure that your organization is performing at a 3 level for attributes 1, 10, 15, 20, and 28. So what are the new safety and health habits that our organization can form? We can be on site no more than once a year for a safety and or health visit, but don't wait for us. Use that form and evaluate yourself between those visits. And it's a good tool for the safety committee to take on these occupational health and safety management system audits, devise the corrective actions, and in the next committee meetings, in the upcoming committee meetings, make sure that those actions are getting addressed. So I appreciate everybody's attention during this webinar. I wanted to share, if you're interested in having a OSHA consultation, you can go to our website, at www.iup.edu/PA-OSHA consultation. And you'll see that the free consultation request form is located right on our landing page. And you can submit that form and get started with us. If you'd like to contact us, you can contact me directly. My email address is jmalroy@iup.edu. If you're interested in pursuing and taking your organization's safety and health performance to the next level, Mr. Dave Yanishik is our SHARP outreach coordinator, and Dave can be reached through daveyano@iup.edu, and he can answer any questions you have about our SHARP or pre-SHARP process. So our phone number and our website. We also have social media presences on Facebook and Twitter as well. I want to thank you for your time. I wanted to let you know that the next webinar is coming up on January 12th at 10:30 a.m. will be on cold stress prevention by Mr. Dane Sprankle, one of our health consultants. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.